Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Irwin, and I'm the Autism and Assistive Technology Specialist at the Virginia Department of Education. I'm joined today by some very special guests to talk about the importance of inclusion of students with disabilities in social emotional learning. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Stacy Carr, Technical Assistance Coordinator at Virginia Commonwealth University's Autism Center for Excellence, or VCU ACE. Stacy's work centers around supporting students and adults with autism and developing social competence. Stacy also serves on the board of the Autism Society of Central Virginia, supporting individuals with autism and their families. I'm also joined by Cindy Petoniak. Cindy has been a special educator for over 40 years as a teacher in the elementary, secondary, and collegiate level, and has also served as a school and district administrator. Sydney recently retired after supporting school divisions through her work with BCU ACE. Elizabeth Mastretta serves as the assistant principal at Jordan Springs Elementary School in Frederick County, Virginia. Before assisting in opening Jordan Springs this year, she was the principal at Evendale Elementary. Her passion is inclusion and meeting the needs of all students academically, socially, and emotionally. So I'd like to thank you all for being here. And we know that well-designed inclusive education ensures that students with disabilities are provided the specially designed instruction, related services, and supports needed to be successful both academically and socially. And today we want to spend some time just talking about some big points for consideration when thinking about inclusive social emotional education. So let's start with Elizabeth. Can you talk to us a little bit about your experiences regarding school-wide initiatives and the benefits for students?
Sure. I've had the privilege of leading two schools in getting social emotional learning started for Tier 1. And what we've learned is that it's really important that all students have Tier 1 social emotional learning. The same we treat reading, writing, and math instruction with strong integrative and inclusive social emotional learning instruction, practice, and feedback. Students will be able to better access the academic curriculum, demonstrate pro-social behavior, and reduce conduct problems. This has a positive impact on both the individual child, their family, their classroom, the school, and the larger community. Teachers will experience reduced emotional stress for not just their students, but also for themselves when they prioritize social emotional learning and integrate it into each student's daily experience. Cindy, will you talk about how this impacts students with disabilities?
Sure. According to reviews of current research literature compiled at the University of Kansas, students with disabilities who learn in inclusive settings show higher levels of social interaction and acceptance by typical peers than students who learn in self-contained classes do. They engage in fewer antisocial behaviors, they're more connected to the school community, their networks of social relationships are stronger and more extensive. The purpose of social emotional learning in the first place is to enhance students' ability to navigate the social world. So it makes perfect sense that the social world at school would be the most effective setting for that learning. And that means it's really important to keep social emotional learning natural. Students need opportunities to practice and use the skills they learn. If you already have students with disabilities included in your class, this is going to be easy. There are so many opportunities to embed social emotional learning across the day in circle discussions and morning meetings, within the academic content, within established routines, and just situations that arise on a daily basis. If your class is not already fully inclusive, this is going to be more of a challenge because you're going to have to create opportunities. And it's really important to keep them natural, relevant, and meaningful for all of your students. A student coming into your class to sit in the back next to a paraprofessional during whole class instruction is not what we mean by natural, relevant, and meaningful. So here are a few examples. Interest-based clubs can be developed at any grade level. Your class can do service projects for the school or community. They can put on drama or theater productions. These kinds of activities provide opportunities to apply a variety of academic skills too. Your students can mentor younger students. You can provide structure and regular opportunities for your students to work together in diverse collaborative groups. All of these types of activities are highly engaging. They can grow and develop over time, and they're a perfect way to practice and apply social emotional learning. Whole class instruction in a general education classroom may not be the most effective setting for some students with disabilities to initially learn social emotional skills, but all students benefit from using them together in a meaningful way in the real world. And as the teacher, you can totally make that happen.
And it is important for the teacher to believe that this is something that they can do and something that will work. And it's also important that you have all stakeholders within a school creating a shared vision for social emotional learning, so that everyone can believe that it can work and that it is important. It's something that needs to happen. So when you have all stakeholders involved, SEL, or social emotional learning, becomes the lens through which many of our decisions are made. We include creating a master schedule so that we prioritize having all students have the opportunity to come together for social emotional learning, but also have opportunities for differentiation throughout the day so that students can receive that individualized or small group instruction for those required skills. It also is important that you look at resource allocation. And so it's not just your time, but your people, and making sure that special education teachers are available in the morning, so that if your classroom participates in a morning circle, that it's not just the classroom teacher who's presenting, but the special education teacher, maybe also other support staff, including aides and English language learners and their teachers, can come together as well. It is vitally important that your district staff and your school-based administration believe in social emotional learning, and they make these decisions on behalf of the school and what's important for students. Cindy, you were going to talk about specially designed instruction.
Yeah, social emotional learning is in a large part about skill development at every grade level. Using language to communicate your emotions, using self-management strategies and coping skills, using problem solving and conflict resolution strategies, responding appropriately when someone is treated unfairly, active listening, using decision-making strategies and critical thinking skills, using strategies to overcome challenges, expressing empathy and gratitude appropriately. These are just a few examples of skills that students are going to be learning through social emotional learning instruction as they progress through all their years in school. And as part of this instruction, students will need to see the skills they're learning demonstrated. They'll need to practice them. They'll need to receive feedback on how they did. And they'll need coaching to use them in real life situations. So in planning, it makes sense to start with the end result you're working toward. Consider the skills you're targeting and the situations where those skills are particularly likely to be required in daily life. That's the end result you're working for. Equipping your students for success in those situations. You can work backward from there as you plan your instruction, keeping that end result in mind. Ask yourself, what natural, relevant, meaningful opportunities can I create that will provide my students with practice and feedback? What's the best way to actually teach my students these skills? And will different students need different instruction, at least initially? So that brings us to think a little bit about co-planning and co-teaching. We strongly recommend teaming between general and special education teachers to co-plan and co-teach social emotional learning instruction. Now, we know that all teachers are constantly called upon to address the social and emotional needs of their students, but targeting social emotional skills for specific instruction may be kind of a new thing for some. Special education teachers typically have a wealth of experience in this type of instruction because so many students with disabilities have specific needs in this area. The special ed teacher can bring to the table evidence-based instructional practices that are specifically targeted towards social skill development. Practices like social narratives, social skills training groups, self-management strategies, video modeling, social scripting, visual supports, just to name a few, while developed for use with students with disabilities, can be highly effective for many students, and they're easily modified for wider application. The special ed teacher, as co-planner and co-facilitator of those natural opportunities for practice that we discussed earlier, like a school service project, for example, can be an invaluable support to the general ed teacher and to all the students involved. There's no better model for teaching students to form positive, collaborative, working relationships with others than a strong collaborative team of teachers. So combine your skills. Your social emotional learning instruction will be the better for it, and your students will most definitely benefit. And not only that, the benefits are lifelong for your students.
Cindy and Elizabeth, thank you so much for the wonderful input that you just gave. And I absolutely see the lifelong benefits. Starting early in preschool and elementary school with social emotional learning and targeting those skills in a natural environment and providing the supports needed for each student really support students as they progress through school. Whatever a student's path is post-secondary, whether it's apprenticeship or college or career, their success relies heavily on their ability to engage socially, emotionally, and competently. When we think about graduation and we think about college and career, the students who are able to succeed are those who are able to manage their behavior, who are able to empathize with others, and who are able to plan effectively. That's why what you shared today is so vital and important for not only students with disabilities, but all students. Elizabeth, I know you have so many stories to share.
Yes. So, and the thing is, I have so many stories to share. I'm not sure which one to share, but what I will say is that there is never, for me in my experience, there's not a huge turnaround story. Like you don't have this big, like we integrated social emotional learning and look at how it solved everything. You know, it's not, it's really this small cumulative effect that we see in these daily practices that we know will continue to sort of snowball as we continue to integrate more social emotional learning, provide greater opportunities for practice and feedback throughout the school year and in years to come. So we have a 5th grade classroom this year. Of course, they had many challenges. The kids didn't get a chance to finish off their 4th grade year the way they would have liked to. We have high class sizes this year because of trying to figure out how to group everyone with virtual and hybrid instruction as choices. We have new staff because we're a new school. This classroom that I have in mind has students with disabilities and English language learners, including also students who qualify for the gifted and talented program. So we've got this really nice, diverse group of children, but meeting their needs can be a challenge when you have limited resources. And so I think the beautiful thing that we've seen this year is the teacher has integrated morning circles. So kids start every day with just a supportive, inclusive environment all together where they come together and they get to know one another and they get to build their classroom community. They also get to practice oral language skills and really the social interaction between one another that has really been limited during the pandemic. But even pre-pandemic, it was an area of need that teachers needed to be more purposeful in teaching. We also have the teacher using restorative practices for conflict resolution. And so students are really getting a daily dose in the morning circle, but they're also getting a great example of how to manage challenging times that are inevitable in any group of people, but especially a skill set that they need as they go on to middle school. So what we've seen is, students who have self-regulation deficits are getting the instruction that they need through their tier 2 or tier 3 supports in special education, in addition to the tier 1 instruction that they're getting in the classroom. And not only that, but the kids that are in the classroom are getting an opportunity to practice empathy, to welcome a student back in, to understand that when a student has had maybe difficulty with self-regulation, that's just their need right now, and that they're still a valuable member of the classroom despite what challenges they may have. We've also seen students with learning disabilities or English language learners, or just any child, increase their self-advocacy skills. And this is both in academic and behavioral needs. So asking for help when there is a conflict and they're not sure how to resolve it, but also, this is a really hard concept for me, and I need somebody to re-explain this for me, and giving them that language to do that, and also the opportunities and empowerment to feel comfortable with asking for what they need. And then overall, just developing those relationship skills and those oral language skills so that they can move on to middle school confidently. We feel very strongly about this group and how they're going on to middle school.
That is so great. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And thank you to Stacy and Cindy as well for sharing your knowledge, your experiences, and your stories and expertise. If anyone out there has questions about this video, you can contact me, Daniel Irwin, at the Virginia Department of Education, or explore the resources available through the Virginia Commonwealth University's Autism Center for Excellence at vcuautismcenter.org. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our panelists.